For a decade, Korean schools tried to ban one winter coat. They banned the length. They banned the brand. They even banned every color except black. Nothing worked. In October 2019, one middle school wrote up over 50 kids in a single day for the same thing, wearing a puffer jacket without the school blazer underneath. The school's own rulebook said that was allowed. The discipline office had just decided to punish them anyway. This is the story of why one puffer coat beat every rule Korea threw at it. I'm Sam Suhan, and the reason this seemingly bizarre story matters goes back to one daily ritual. Korean schools run a gate check. A teacher stands at the entrance on winter mornings and inspects hair, uniform, and bag. And for most of the 2010s, checking the uniform meant checking the brand of the puffer jacket a kid wore over it, because that brand told the teacher and every other student exactly what your family earned. So for the sake of socioeconomic equality, they tried to ban the jacket, then the length, then the color. None of it worked, and by the end, the same government running the bans was buying the uniform itself and still couldn't fix the problem. I'm going to walk you through the diagram that started it, a chart a teenager drew for free, then everything the schools tried, the time the country already ran this experiment, and the one thing that actually killed the ranking. Let's get into it. In the winter of 2011, a Korean high school student built a chart and posted it to a message board. He made it out of shopping screenshots. 6 product photos of North Face padded jackets lifted straight from a price comparison site with the price tags still attached, and under each one a rank and a note explaining who wears it. The labels are Korean, so the translations here are mine. At the bottom sat the Noopse 2, 250,000 won, about $225 at the time. The rank, loser. The note says everyone and anyone wears a thing, so that's what you are. The Noopse 1, on the other hand, costs exactly the same and gets you a different rank, ordinary. It's the coat you picture when you picture a North Face, and the note says the losers and the kids who run the school both wear it. Then the 800 and the 300,001 range, roughly $270, upper middle. Sometimes the losers wear it, but it's mostly the kids who run the school. Then a 500,001 coat, about $450, the dry loft. The rank, delinquent, the kid who acts hard and actually shakes down smaller kids for their money. It carries 2 notes. From this model up, the wearer earns the title Spine Breaker, more on that later, and the losers don't wear it because they're afraid it'll be stolen from them. Now, look at what he's actually ranking. These aren't sub-brands, it's one brand, and the rungs are a model name, a fabric, and a lab measurement. Noopse is a mountain next to Everest. Dry Loft was a gore shell fabric, and the 800 isn't a model at all, it's fill power, the number for how much loft you get out of an ounce of down. A high school student had the North Face's spec sheet memorized the way a car guy knows trim levels. Then it gets interesting. A 600,001 model, about $545. He doesn't name this one. The top 2 rungs are the only ones where he just skips the model and gives you the price. And instead of a description, it gets to ranks, and which one you get depends on your family. A rich kid in that coat is a rich family's party kid. A dirt poor kid in the exact same coat is a spine breaker. Same jacket, 2 ranks, and the only variable is how much money your dad makes. At the very top, 700,001, about $635, the boss. Reporters at the time identified it as the Himalayan parka from North Face's Summit series, a coat built to survive the Himalayas, being worn to stand at a bus stop. The note says you rarely see one because even a spine breaker can't drain his parents hard enough to reach 700,001, and the people wearing it are mostly adults, not students. 6 rungs, and this wasn't bro theory or someone just making a meme for fun. A month before the chart went up, Hankyoreh, a Korean national daily, sent a reporter into schools to ask students why everyone was wearing the same coat. A 16-year-old in Seoul described a boy his class excluded and nobody talking to him. One day, the boy showed up in a North Face and told him why. He wanted to belong to the main group like everyone else. They also spoke to a 15-year-old in Gyeonggi who counted the coats in her own classroom. 37 kids, 15 of them in North Face, herself included, and she said the ones in unbranded jackets looked shabby. The chart also had the side effect of telling you which coats were worth taking. Within a year, kids were taking them by force. In February 2012, in Incheon, 2 high schoolers pulled 4 middle schoolers into an alley, assaulted them with clubs, and took 2 North Face jackets worth about $1,000 together. That same winter in Seoul, a crew raided outside schools and cram schools, assaulted more than 20 students, and took jackets, shoes, and cash, roughly $9,000 in all. Police booked 20 of them. They had gone specifically for the $640 to $730 models. On the chart, if you remember, that's the boss's coat. Korea coined a word for this, and the word blamed the child: spine breaker. In Korean, dungo breaka. Dungo means the backbone and the marrow inside it. Bolt the English breaker onto it, and you get the kid who snaps his parent's spine, so to speak, to buy a coat, and by extension, the coat that does the snapping. Korean dictionaries later filed the word under a category that basically means being a bad son or daughter, the sin of taking from your parents instead of honoring them. A word for a 700,000 won coat, and the only person it accuses is the child wearing it. The word came out of the North Face jacket around 2011. In February 2014, 3 years before most of the world had heard of them, BTS put a track called Spine Breaker on their album School Love Affair. The song talks directly to a kid in a spine breaker coat, breaks down the prices of what he's wearing, then in the second verse lets the kid answer. His class will exclude him the wrong coat, his friends already own the right one, and buying it is the only move left to stay relevant. Both halves of that argument were on a rap record in 2014 by a group that would become arguably the most famous musical act in the world today. The bands came in, and they came in waves across a decade. First the length, then the brand, then the color. The most primitive implementation was flat prohibition. A middle school in Busan banned long padded jackets outright, citing the price and the risk of a kid falling down the stairs in a knee-length coat. Out of 38 middle schools in the district, it was the only one. The students dismantled both reasons in Kukje, the Busan Daily. Long padded jackets online ran about $90 to $180, roughly the same as the short ones nobody banned. Nobody zips a long coat to the ankle anyway. One kid ordered a coat before the announcement and taken delivery after it, so he owned a jacket he wasn't allowed to wear. The headline the paper ran was the student's own question: why are we the only ones who can't wear it? Most schools tried something more subtle. The blazer rule, the one that generated those 50 demerits in a day I mentioned in the cold open, required the uniform blazer underneath the puffer. It slipped a school layer between the child and the brand without touching the brand. One school barred coats in the hallways. Another let girls wear outerwear and told the boys they couldn't. A survey of 1,511 students across 64 schools found 65% living under some outerwear rule. And the administrator's reasoning given to Gyeongnam Domin Ilbo wasn't about money at all. One put it this way: allow every student request and you arrive at a place where you can't regulate anything. Which, to paraphrase, means give kids an inch on the coat and pretty soon you can't enforce anything. But the education ministry never ordered any of this. In 2016, it wrote to every school in the country asking them to fix their outerwear rules because regulating a child's coat carried elements of a rights violation. In August 2019, it announced it would strike the clothing inspection provisions out of the enforcement decree of the law. The 50 demerits landed 2 months after that notice. The schools were being asked to stop and they kept checking. One example: in December 2019, a middle school girl arrived at school on a cold morning and left her puffer in the classroom. Walking around the building, she got cold and a friend in the hallway lent her his for a while. A homeroom teacher spotted her in it and confiscated it because she was wearing a padded jacket without her uniform blazer underneath. She asked for it back twice. The teacher's answer, in her mother's online account of it, was, "It isn't even yours, so why do you care? And then you can just give your coat to your friend." So she did. She gave her friend her own coat to walk home in and went to cram school without one and got home at 10:30 that night, shivering. The final attempt was color. School started allowing black padded jackets only. Black on black on black, a whole grade in one shade, so you couldn't tell a 250,000 won coat from a 700,000 won across a hallway. And we know exactly why they did it, because a teacher said so. Writing on a Kleong thread, one of Korea's oldest forums, stepping into an argument to defend his profession, he explained that the reason padded coats became an issue was that the price of the jacket revealed a student's economic status, that cliques formed on it, and that the kids who couldn't afford the expensive ones got bullied. So, he said, schools typically only allowed black ones. That's this entire video conceded by a teacher defending the rule. The coat is a wealth readout, and the color rule exists to hide it. It was also beyond pointless since anyone who's hip, and everyone is hip, can recognize a brand by the cut in the logo. You might compare all of this to Japan, where about a quarter of elementary schools have a uniform, 26.6% by the uniform industry's own count. In those schools, everything is closed. The uniform covers the body. Every kid swaps into identical indoor schools at the entrance and wears them all day. What's left is one object, a stiff leather bag called a randuseru, carried for 6 years, running from about 10,000 yen to over 100,000. Expensive, bought once, carried daily, visible across a playground to the other parents. Everything the coat is. So all of it lands on the bag. There's a season for it with a name, Rankatsu, bag hunting. 6 months of research, grandparents brought in to cover it, moms groups splitting in half over one woman's high-end bag. Advice columns telling you flat out not to say the price out loud because most families land at 50 to 70,000 yen, and anything outside that becomes gossip. That's the same funnel Korea built. Close every surface, but leave one open, and watch everything pour into it. The difference is what got left open. Every randuseru is the same shape, and the maker's name isn't on the outside, so almost nobody can tell what one cost by looking. The parents can read it because they spent 6 months researching it. The kids just see a bag. Japan's version gets fought by adults. Korea left the coat with the brand across the chest and handed it to the kids. The funny thing is that the bans ignored something the country had already tested at full scale. On March 2, 1983, Korea abolished the school uniform. Students wore their own clothes and grew their hair out. It lasted 3 years. The complaints that killed it are on the record. The cost to households, the trouble of supervising kids in plain clothes, and the one that finished it, the friction of a visible gap between rich and poor. Walking down a hallway, you could now see which kids came from money. One by one, the schools took the uniform back. By March 1998, 95.5% of Korean middle and high schools wore one again. So the Korean school uniform is a device for hiding what a family earns. The country tested life without it, disliked what it saw, and put it back on purpose. It covers the shirt, the torso, the legs, and on strict campuses, even the shoes. It does not cover the padded jacket you put on over it, which is exactly where the sorting went. A commenter in that same thread mentioned earlier said as much. The reason these absurd coat rules exist at all is the existence of the uniform. Banning the puffer just repeats 1986 on a smaller target. Under the coat is the blazer, already regulated. Under the blazer is the shirt. Next to it, the bag, the shoes, and the phone. There's always a smaller target, and the ranking will find it because the kids are the ones ranking each other. The coat is only where they create semi-official rankings. Korea then went further. The state started buying the uniform. A price ceiling and co-purchasing went into law in 2014, and by 2015, schools ran their own bids. Some local governments handed the uniform over for free. The Incheon Education Office lists the supported items as a winter set and a summer set, 6 pieces with a subsidy of about $215 per student. Outerwear appears in that same document only as an additional purchase. On February 12th of this year, President Lee Jae-myung said in a meeting that uniform costs were approaching 600,000 won, about $400, and that parents had started calling it a spine breaker. He was describing the uniform his own government pays for, and he reached for the word a teenager coined for a North Face parka. Which raises the obvious question, if it's subsidized, why do parents care? Because the subsidy is only scoped to those 6 pieces, and the school's list is not. The state buys every garment the uniform covers, and nothing worn over it. A middle school in North Gyeongsang charges 608,000 won for the full uniform, the jacket, the seasonal tops and bottoms, and the gym kit. But government support runs 300,000 to 400,000 won, and the parent covers the rest. And the puffer, worn over all of it, costs another 250,000 won at the bottom and 4 million at the top, which the subsidy never touched at all. After a decade of bans did nothing, something else finally knocked North Face off the top. Saturation. North Face stopped ranking Korean teenagers the year it became mom and dad clothes worn by so many people that seeing one on a kid told you nothing about his family. No ban had anything to do with it. By the winter of 2020, a price comparison site called Danawa built a new chart that sorts padded jackets by how long you're expected to keep them. The top tier is called Our Family Heirloom. At the bottom, just throw it on. North Face had slid to 4th place out of 6. The funny thing is that the North Face didn't become saturated because it was relatively affordable, but only because there was an unlimited number of them available and everyone eventually saved up and got one. The 2017 Olympics proved this by accident. Lotte released the Pyeongchang long padded jacket, Goose Down, official Olympic license for $149,000 won, about $130, and ranked by pricing, this would be at the bottom rung of the jacket clout ranking. What made this one different was that they made only 30,000 of them for a country of 51 million people. On the day of the drop, the first man in line arrived at 7 p.m. the night before with his mother and waited 15 hours. He wanted it, he told Hanga Gilbo, because it was a keepsake you could never buy again once the run ended. The coats then showed up on resale sites at double the price, a jacket built to be affordable, now going second hand for $265. The low price was irrelevant next to the scarcity. A good puffer that's cheap and rare becomes premium. So if Korean schools want to fix this, the fix probably runs opposite to a ban. Pick any decent puffer, make sure any kid can buy it any day of the winter in any number, and let it get boring. That's what happened to North Face with nobody planning it. A different teacher in that previously mentioned Kleong thread stumbled into a version of this. After a new superintendent took office, his province ordered schools to let students write their own dress code. His kids came back stricter than the adults were. They allowed shorts, but only 7/8 length. Somebody proposed the line should be as long as your underwear isn't showing, and the student council shot that down as too short and set it above the knee. He called them bigger boomers than he was. Then he mentioned a cheap online mall called Ten Top, and the ones who bought from it started showing up in near matching long padded jackets one after another. If we don't regulate, he wrote, they keep to a sensible line on their own. If I go around telling them not to, the only one who suffers is me. But sadly, his class proves less than he thinks. He did two things in credits. One, he stopped policing them, and then he told them where to buy a cheap coat. In a class converging on a single label is exactly where 2011 started. Everyone was already in North Face. That's why the first chart ranked 6 North Face jackets against each other, 250,000 won up to 700,000. His arrangement holds until one kid walks in wearing a Montclair, and over time one always does. Almost to prove the point, the best objection in that thread came from a guy arguing with the first teacher, the one defending the color rule. Issue every kid the same padded jacket, he said, and they'll just rank each other by the price of their school supplies or by who washes more often. And he's right, making one coat universal kills that coat, the ranking outlives it and moves to the next one. North Face held the top for about 4 years. Discovery peaked in 2017. Montclair took it by 2020 and still has it close to 4 million won, about $2,900. North Face and Discovery both died of popularity, and each time the kids drew a new chart. Montclair hasn't died of anything because at 4 million won, it can't. The ranking doesn't even need an object. In May 2024, a father posted that his 4th grade son came home crying over a name he was being called Gegun Gudji, perfect attendance beggar. Perfect attendance means your family never filed the school trip form, which means your family never took you on experiential learning leave, basically school endorsed skipping school for vacation, while classmates flew to Guam, Singapore, and Hawaii. Worth flagging, some Korean teachers say the word is rarer than the coverage suggests, and one education outlet traced its first appearance in print to a 2020 article written by an intern. Then the South China Morning Post picked it up and ran it in English, so there's a real chance the papers helped spread the thing they were warning about, which is almost besides the point. Cover the body with a uniform, ban the padded jackets, hide the grades, even scrub the brand names off public housing blocks, and the kids rank each other on whatever is left. When there's nothing left to ban, the judgment falls onto where you want on vacation. Oh, and by the way, the father did offer his son a trip inside Korea. The boy turned it down because he'd be embarrassed saying where he'd been. So the dad and his wife decided she'd take the boy abroad, just the two of them, and he went off hunting the cheapest flights he could find. Put it all together. A teenager drew a chart for free in 2011. A decade of bans on length, on brand, on color cost that chart nothing. What finally killed it was saturation, one coat becoming so common it told you nothing. Even that only reset the game because the kids aren't ranking the puffer, they're ranking each other by bunny, and the coat was just the surface a child could read from across the classroom. To explain this, the two professors Hongare called reached for psychology, materialism, exam pressure, anything except the plain fact that the coat measures daddy's money. But the classic 2011 chart refutes them in one line. The rich kid and the broke kid and the identical 600,001 jacket got different ranks. The rung reads income. The discomfort the grown-ups felt looking at that diagram was never disapproval nearly as much as it was recognition. The kids took the same ranking their parents ran on apartments and cars and holidays and drew it where the rest of the school could read it. The adults just run theirs on surfaces you can't see from across the room. By the way, in my 2024 trip in Seoul, I bought this National Geographic brand coat that was popular in Korea. Researching this video, I found that it sits at the bottom tier because it started out cool several years ago, but once everyone got one, and it was very common to see on the street, it lost all its clout. But I still like it. If you got something out of this video, please join my newsletter. The link is in the description. The sources I use for this video are also down there too, so you can read the reporting in the forum threads yourself. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, subscribe to the next one finds you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.